still love it because I love working with moms. And when they come in, they like F my kids, F my husband, F this family. I'm going to pack my stuff up and I'm going to leave the kids with my husband. He is just going, since he don't understand, that's how they all start out, where they are just like, they're done.
You are listening to Unapologetically Mommyhood, where we talk the real behind the scenes of mommyhood in business through the eyes and experiences of other moms in business. First, we are moms, yes, but we are also women, bosses, and humans. Here we support moms on being confident, authentic, and most of all, unapologetic to who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Our identity isn't tied to just being a mom because we are so much more. Welcome to the MommyHood. This episode is sponsored by Thrive After 9, a community and support system for moms who are coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs supporting each other in a positive, safe, judgment-free zone of other like-minded women getting things done to thrive in your home and business. To find out more, go to www.thriveafter9.com. Hello, and welcome back to Unapologetically Mommyhood, where we talk mommyhood and business unapologetically. We are embracing who you are, not just as a mom, but as a human, because mommyhood is real. It's not all the giggles and cuddles that you see all over the internet. Sometimes that ish hits the fan, and sometimes we mean literally. And we have our breakdown ugly cries too. So, welcome to the MommyHood. Today, I have something special for the moms who are out there struggling and they're like, okay, I need some help. We're going to be having Charmaine of the Charmed Life, who is a life strategist who guides mom entrepreneurs of color that have special needs children to achieve more time, energy, and focus in both their personal and professional life. She's also a mom of 3 children, 2 diagnosed with autism, 1 diagnosed with ADHD, and has been an advocate and mentor to parents in the special needs community for over 10 years. Not only that, she's been featured in Her View from Home, Metro Detroit Moms, Care of Southeast Michigan, and she shares life management tools and techniques for the Family Center of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So she is out here really advocating and helping moms with special needs children in not just their personal, but their professional life. And that's what we're here and all about at Unapologetically Mommyhood, is helping moms both in their personal and professional life, because it's not just about one or the other. The two work together. So let's get her on in here. Let's go ahead and bring Charmaine in.
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much, Kamisha, for that hype intro. I'm like, what was she talking about? She talking about me? What?
Yes, you are amazing. So I had to let them know. I had to let them know how you do.
Hey, ladies, what's up? So let's get it popping.
So Charmaine is super, 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 super amazing. And I just want you to let everybody know first why. Why did you decide, okay, I'm going to be an advocate and help other moms that are in the same situation as me?
Okay, so because my blue tail was struggling and there were no resources. Like all the resources were, and it's still this way, which is so sad, where most of 99.9% of the workshops, um, summits, et cetera, are all about your kids. They're giving you more ish to do with your kids. I'm already overwhelmed. I'm already not getting sleep. How can I manage my life while I'm doing all this stuff? And so I went on a journey. I was taught that somebody has already done or is doing what you want to do. You just have to find them. Like there's nothing new under the sun. So somebody else is already living fabulously free and flowy. You just have to find them. And of course, when you put that in your head and you put that out into the universe, you happen to link up with certain teachers, coaches, etc., that show you you're not crazy. So I went and I learned from some people, and then I flipped it because these people were men. At the time I was looking, there were no women. There
Mhm.
still aren't a lot of women in this field, but there really were no women out there. And so I learned from men, but I had to take and flip it because they're talking about taking 2 hours in the morning to just be to yourself. And, they're talking about just let your family know what you're not going to do. And I'm like, okay, first of all, no offense to my white folk, but they white men. So that means they have wives and they really don't have to do all of the things that a woman would need to do because these men were already substantially at coin. So that means they have staff. And no shade, but your life is different when you don't have staff yet. There's a certain amount of hustle you still have to maintain in order for things to work.
Mhm.
And so I took what I learned from them and I made it fit to my life because that's not something they was into. They was like, just put on blinders. I'm like, do you not know that my son will be smearing feces on the wall if I put on blinders? Dude, you don't get it. And so when other moms started to see that I wasn't as stressed, and they're like, oh my God, you always seem to have it together and blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, really, you want, so I'll just tell them. I just started telling moms like what I was doing and how it helped me. And one day somebody was like, well, that you should maybe have a class or you could turn this into a business. And like most of us that are in business, when we do things that we are really passionate about and we just want to help people, I'm like, but who's going to pay me for what I know? Like, this is just some shit that I found on Google and through some books, and I twisted it and made it into something like, no, moms really need this. And so for a while, you go through like, does somebody really need, like, you sure this just isn't for me? And I'm going to go out there. And I've been doing this for real, for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And I still love it because I love working with moms. And when they come in, they like F my kids, F my husband, F this family. I'm going to pack my stuff up and I'm going to leave the kids with my husband. He is just going, since he don't understand, that's how they all start out, where
Mhm.
they are just like they're done. By the time we've worked together, they begin to see the synergy and the harmony and the team they can create, no matter what their team looks like, and how to create something that works for them. And I always love that transformation. My goal is I want everybody to be good. Like, if I can be good, I'm not like super special, like I'm special, but like I'm not so special to where the only person that can do this, right? So I want to be able to help other moms have that same feeling of, yes, I might have this special need. Yes, I might have this, but I've finally either built the systems, the team, or just the breadth in my life to where I can handle and not always feel like I'm at wit's end. Did
Yes.
I answer your question? Because I think I
Yes,
kind
you answered the question. It's cool. No, but one of the things that you did say that I think is very key and that I focus on a lot and I talked about a lot is that when you don't have kids and or you might be a male, you don't understand what's going on in the background and what has to be done. So when they tell you, well, you just got to do this, and you're like, that's not how it's gonna
of,
go in my day. Like my day is not gonna be like just this. It's not a straight line. It's like this. It's everywhere. So you can't tell me to put on some blinders and just go because it just can't be that way. And I feel like
yeah,
people who don't have children or are the male don't understand, and so they have these expectation of moms that they have of other people, and
yep.
we are still business owners, we're still women, we're still human, but we're going to be moms first, and there's no way that anyone could ever tell us that you're going to have to put your kid on the back burner and do this. Like, it'll never happen. Like, that's not how we're built. So
So yeah,
yeah, so when you said that, that was like jumped right out at me. I was like, it's no way that they could tell us you just got to go in this straight line. Like, our
yeah.
life is not a straight line.
No, ma'am. And to kind of piggyback off of that, now when we say, you don't put your kids on the back burner. Let's make it abundantly clear. That does not mean that you can use your kids as an excuse as to why you're not doing something you're
Yeah.
supposed to do. I wanted to add that caveat,
Yeah, because
or
people
it doesn't
might
mean that
think
you,
that. Yep, people
right, and it
might
doesn't
think
mean that
that.
you don't set boundaries with your family as well. Because in order for you to be able to manage, there's got to be boundaries. And those boundaries are not just with them, but it's with you and how you want things to look. I
Mm.
have a 10-year-old whom I love so dearly, but he would be right up in my room talking to me right now if I hadn't set the boundary. When the door is closed, when that curtain is pulled, you don't come. Like when the curtain is pulled, that means you don't come in. And like I always tell people, I got receipts. If you could see when we were working on that skill, I would be doing live streams and he would be poking his head in, hey ma. And I would have to go, hey, remember? He said, oh yeah, the curtain's closed. Right. I'll be with you in a minute. And I will go back to my video. And eventually it moved to where he waits until I either open the curtain or I call his name. But I've had to set those boundaries. I've had to set boundaries with my husband on stuff because I don't know about your husband, but he'll think of something like, hey, babe, guess what? And it's like, I'm recording right now. I'm trying to write copy right now.
Yeah, so I'm in a whole
Yeah.
different part of the house, but before I started, I did say, "Hey, I'm about to record," so that they know,
Yep.
like, look, I'm about to record because I've had some mishaps where toddler walking in while I'm recording, then I got to hurry up, shut the camera off, do whatever because I don't know how she coming through the door. Who knows where she just came from? You know what I mean? So, I like what you said about the boundaries because one thing that's so really important that I talk with the moms about is setting the boundaries with yourself. So I love that you said setting the
Mhm.
boundaries with yourself because if you don't set boundaries with yourself first, nobody
Ain't
else
nobody
is going to respect your boundaries.
Nope.
So you have to stick to the boundaries that you set for them and the boundaries that you set for yourself
Because they
to
are
set
watching.
this, yes, to set you up for success because they definitely try to figure out how to tiptoe across that boundary. They like, let me see how I can get in there. I'm ready to go. Just I'm waiting. You know what I mean? So you
Yep.
got to definitely set up your boundaries first for
Yes.
yourself. I love that you said that. So
Yeah.
I have wrote that down. I was like, I gotta make sure we talk about this whole boundaries thing. So we're gonna definitely come back to boundaries because boundaries are so very important in talking about
Yeah.
what is a way you can set up a boundary, right? Like how can you set up a boundary that feels good to you? Let's just hop right into that because I feel like starting with boundaries is a good place to start. How do
Especially
you set up a boundary that feels comfortable for you because sometimes as moms we just want to do everything, you know what I mean, but we have to take that time so that we can have sanity, right? We have to
right.
take that time. So what's a quick way that you can sit down and say, okay, how can I set up a boundary that feels good to me?
Okay. So the first thing is that you have to be clear about what it is you even want in the first place. As moms, what we tend to do is the boundary comes after the boundary has been busted 999 million times and we start spinning our head like the exorcist and yelling at everybody and going on strike. That is not the time to apply the boundary. So
Uh,
first you have to be clear about what it is do you actually need or you don't need. What is that thing? And breaking it down. I think of boundaries like goals. What is it? What is it specifically that you are looking to either do or have that person not do? What does that look like? So once you have the clarity, then you communicate it.
mm,
Hey, we have we have phones now. You ain't even got to talk to your husband if you don't want to. I just text mine before we did this. Hey babe, I am shooting a podcast. Keep everybody downstairs. He said, bet. That was it. Communicate them. The other person, and you communicate them like you're talking to little kids because everybody has so much going on in their life that the more complicated you get, the less they listen. So
mm,
when you communicate it, make sure that you use the clarity that you used in creating that boundary so they're really clear about what it is you either want them to do or not to do, and then consistently apply the boundary. I have met so many moms, and I'm sure you have too, where they have boundaries, but they ain't applied none of them. None of them have been applied because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or
Mm.
they understand their husband's had a rough day, or the kid had a meltdown and they don't want to give them anything else to think about. Stop being willing to inconvenience yourself to keep everybody else happy, in air quotes. You're never going to be able to keep them happy all the time. So my rule of thumb is you might as well piss them off now so you can move on than building up and then you're exploding later.
I
Be
love
consistent
that.
with
Oh my
applying that
goodness.
boundary. Be consistent with applying that boundary. Even when it's uncomfortable, always stick to what you said the consequence was going to be.
Mm.
No matter what that person went through in that week, hey, I know you had a rough week, but look, this is going on. We already had this conversation. This can't happen again, or because you did this, recently, kid example, told my son not to leave his room a mess, not to leave the toothpaste, like simple stuff. Put the toothbrush and toothpaste away, blah, 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 blah. If you don't, I am taking the Switch. I guess he thought I was playing. For Nintendo Switch, for those kids who don't have kids that game. So I let it go. First day I reminded. Second day, what you supposed to do? I asked a question. Third day, I said, give me the Switch. Why? I said, what were you supposed to do? Oh, I was supposed to keep my room clean and get my stuff off the bathroom sink. Okay, I'm gonna go do it now. No, you don't get it back because you're finna go do it now. Now you have to do it consistently for me to give it back.
Mm.
That's what I mean by applying. Like, he had honestly forgot because he's learning a new skill, but he's gonna remember a lot better if I keep taking that Switch away.
Yeah, I love it. And I want to say that I am definitely guilty of what you said about when you're noticing someone's having a bad day, or you're noticing that someone's tired, or you're noticing
Yeah,
that something's not going right and you want to fix it. Like, you're the mom, you want to fix it. So I'm definitely guilty of that. And then I have my moments where I'm like, I can hear it going crazy. I know everything's not amazing, but I got to get done what I got to get done. So I've had both of those days. So I appreciate you actually saying that and putting it out there, because I've had the days, where I put my stuff off, where I'm like, I see things just going bad and I just want to help and pick the pieces up,
yeah,
right? And then I had the days where I'm like, oh my God, like I could keep hearing it, but let me put my headphones on real quick so I can tune it out and get done what I need to get done. Because the whole time that I'm hearing it, guess what I want to do? I want to stop
go
what I'm
home.
doing and go help. Or I'm distracted and I can't think and get my thoughts right and get everything down, because it's natural for us, right? Like, that's our thing, that's natural. Like, we're the moms, like, we're just like, wait a
Yeah,
minute, what's going on? I'm on my texting, like, what's happening? Like, what's that
yep,
noise? And so I make sure now to do those things, like tune it out or let them handle it, because it
yep,
won't be the way that I handle it. It can't be, because I'm amazing, but it won't be that amazing, but it'll
yeah,
still get handled. You know what I mean? So being
right.
able to just say, okay, I set this boundary. I said this was going to happen and I got to just stick to it no matter how hard it gets. Like, because it
Yep.
gets hard where you're just like, well, just let me, and then it pulls you away. Like, you'd be like, I'm gonna just go 2 minutes, and you be gone
And
for an
then it
hour, and
snowballs.
now you missed the hour
Yep,
of
it
what you were supposed to be
snowballs.
doing. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So I love that you said that and pointed that out. And I love the way you explained the boundaries, because it's so important to have a system in the way you set things up, especially as a mom. Like, we like to think that we're creating systems, but sometimes we're just doing a routine, and a routine is
Yep.
not the same thing as a system, because a system is, you can go back and change things that are not working, right? And you're like,
Right.
okay, this is how it's going. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna switch this around. But in a routine, you're just doing it because it's habit. Like, it's something you do out of habit. But a system, as you explained for boundaries, because that what you just explained for how to set your boundaries and go through with it, that's a system. So I
So
just wanted to
here,
point that out.
so here's how moms know if it's a routine or a system. If it's a routine, you can't give it to nobody else because they won't know what in the hell is going
Yeah.
on. Like it would take you too much work. A routine is something like it would take you too much work to even break down to explain
Mm-hmm.
what be going on in your head to make this happen.
Yep.
And that's dangerous because when you're the only person that can do it and when they can only depend on you, that's another stressor.
Mm.
So I always aim to create systems because my kids are older. So I haven't cleaned my kitchen. I haven't washed dishes in like 3 years because of the system that I have put in place with my kids. I have my kids act like team members. Don't come to me if your sister didn't do her job. That's your team member. You as a leader need to talk to her and get it handled. If the big boss has to come in, ain't nobody going to be happy. So what you need to do is to work together as a team to problem solve what's going on. And I just let them have it. Like you do, like I can't solve everything. So systems are things that you can give away and say, this is a clear way of how I do this. And the other person can pretty easily start it and they might have to ask you for questions, but they won't be bewildered. Like, they won't be bewildered.
Yes. And I like that you said that. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, is my 4-year-old old enough to become a
Yes.
team member? Because I'm like, you said you haven't
Yes.
done clean the kitchen in 3 years, man. I feel like I clean the kitchen 5 times a day.
So this is how I started out. My youngest is 10. And so this is how I start out.
Okay.
I started them out at about 3 or 4. And so his job was just to put all the silverware in the little holder in the dishwasher. That was his little job every night. I would set all the spoons and forks. I didn't give him the knife yet, but he had all the spoons and forks and stuff, and he would just put them in there. And that's all he had to do. And it wasn't every night. And I started the kids off small, even with their laundry. Like I don't do nobody's laundry but mine. And the way I started that was little by little. Hey, come on, help me take your basket down. Oh, isn't this fun? Oh, throw the pod in there. Like, thank goodness they have pods now. Like back then you had to measure, but still, like when my youngest was born, I'm like, throw the pod in. And that was like a little game. He would swish the pod inside the washing machine, got him a little step stool. I would walk down there with him, like have him take his stuff out and put it in the dryer. And I would start the dryer because at that time he wasn't allowed to start the dryer. And then so we did that until one day he was like, Mama, I do. I said, well, okay. And I kind of walked behind him to see if he could do it. My oldest son, that's on the spectrum, we have what's called picture exchange communication system pictures up, where, and I still had to shadow him, but first he knew to do this and he would look at his picture and he would move it over. Next, he would do that and he would move it over. So all kids are capable of doing something at their level and they want to help. Like
Mhm.
sometimes the easiest person to get on your side is the 4-year-old because they want to help. They want to do something. Half the time it's be like, okay, not like that. No, but they want to help. And so allowing them to do little things that will eventually turn into big things. So it's getting moms to see the small steps that turn into the big steps. And that's hard to do when you're inundated with so much in your household. You want everybody to get it now.
Mhm.
That's not going to happen that way. You're going to end up stressing yourself out. They're not going to want to help you because it's going to seem so rushed. You got to take small, no matter what age they are. Who cares if they're 16 and you haven't done anything yet? Still start off small based on where they are cognitively, but still start off small and don't expect them to get it in a weekend. If they're only washing their clothes once a week or once every other week, they're not going to get it after that first week. You're going to have to keep shadowing them. It took us, so my daughter is 20. So she's been doing dishes for a while. But it took us about 3 years maybe to really get my son, what's the word I'm looking for? Aware of what cleaning the kitchen was.
Mhm.
That it wasn't just washing the whole aspect of cleaning the kitchen, like what that looked like. I had to realize with my kids that they are not watching me like I think. They're not watching how I clean. They're not watching like that. And so the antigens that our moms used to be like, I've been doing this, you should have been watching me. That don't work with our kids. They're not necessarily watching us. They just know that it gets done. They wake up, there's clean dishes in the dishwasher. They get up, there's food on, there's breakfast on the table. They're not necessarily thinking about the steps like we are. Moms hold a lot of emotional baggage, not just the physical things we have to do, but keeping all of the steps in our head. That is exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I want to take this back to what you said before too, because you just brought up steps again, and I wanted to acknowledge what you said about when you're trying to explain to them to do something that you want them to do, and the more complicated you are, they stop listening, and then when
Yep.
you come back and you see like, wait a minute, like I asked you to do this and it's not done, but like, oh yeah, I did do it. I'd be like, well, what did you do? Because when you come
Yeah.
back, it's not really done, especially what you asked, because you had too many steps, or you had
Yeah.
explained it in general, like in a general fashion, where maybe if you broke it down into a couple of steps and then gave them the simple steps, then
Yep.
that same thing could have gotten done the way you wanted it done. Probably not exactly, but closer, right? Because you didn't explain it in a more overcomplicated way. Because sometimes I'm guilty of that, because you already know what you're doing, you know how
Yep.
to do it. And so when you're explaining it to somebody else, you just like blah, 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 word vomit, telling them what to do because you're so used to doing it. Whereas if
Yep.
maybe you told them it's more simple steps, because they're not the ones that's always doing it, it'd have
Yes.
been done the way you wanted it to be done. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and point that out, because that was very important in you saying that. Because especially as moms, and we're constantly moving and we're doing the stuff and we're moving, that
Yep.
when we tell them to do it, it's like, disappointment. Our expectations are too high, right? We
Yeah.
set these high expectations because we want it done how we do it. But if we're giving it off to them, it's not going to be done the way we um expect it, to our standards, right? To
Exactly.
our expectations. So you have to lower your expectations just a little bit. I had to
Just a little
learn
bit.
that, because every time I would be wanting to do it over, you know what I mean? And what was the point of giving it to them in the first way if you're just going to do it over and you're going to spend that time, you know what I mean? So I had to get used to that, like lower the expectation.
So for me, I have a neurodiverse bunch in my house, and on top of my neurodiversity. So what I've had to implement is the 1, 2, 3 method. I give you the first three, not the one, but it's like I give you the first 3 steps. And then you do that, you let me know when it's done, and then you come back and I give you the next 3. That's how I used to break it down, because for my daughter, she would just be her anxiety would go from like 0 to 100 in 2.5 seconds flat with me giving her instructions, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of her like maybe a neurotypical 14 or 15-year-old. But to her, and I'm giving her like all of these steps, like blah, 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 blah. And she would just stand there and look at me like, okay. And she would always start from the end, like the last thing I'd said, because that would be the last thing that she heard. So because I'm super smart, it took me a really long time to pick up on that. Um, And I said, wait a minute. She does really well when I give her things in threes. So now I just give all my kids things in threes unless they tell me they want me to give it to them a different way.
Mm.
And I just, the first 3 things, and I said, come back and see me when that's done. Second, okay, come back and see me when that's done. Okay, now you're done. And having it like that, if I'm telling them something verbally, if it's something that has a checklist, I have lots of checklists in my house. We got checklists with pictures, we got checklists without pictures, we got checklists everywhere. My house is, they have them in a room, they're in the bathroom, they're everywhere, because we're neurodiverse. We need checklists because our minds are going a million miles a minute. And I have already forgotten step number 2, working on step number 1. Like, what did you tell me to do again? So I find that to be helpful. Even with neurotypical kids, having lists is super helpful um, to them, because then they can begin to see their wins, as well. They can begin to see their wins. They can see automatically what they need to do. Like my son in the morning, the one that's diagnosed with ADHD, he has to have a checklist. If he does not have a checklist, he will get up and do the first 2 things from memory, which are brush his teeth and make his bed. Then after that, he starts building Spider-Man figures. He turns on TV. He's doing everything else but the other things. And so we have to keep referring him back to his list. Like, what else do you need to do? And my husband would get so frustrated. I'm like, babe, that's just how his brain works. Like, to him, he wants to remember all of the things that we've talked about. But as soon as he starts brushing his teeth, he remembers the Spider-Man figure that he had not finished. So then he has to go back. Like, so it's like once my husband got it and was like, so okay, so now like he breaks things down and he gives some checklists on doing things as well. It ain't perfect, but at least we can always direct them back to the checklist, child.
Yes, that is insane with checklists because I want to say I am avoided of checklists, but I find that what you're saying is giving me ideas with the 4 year old to be able to do the picture checklist that I've been seeing, where it's like a board that has the pictures of what to do in the checklist. It's more so pictures where you can get the little stick on pictures and stick them in the order of how you do the things. And I've been looking at those and I was like, oh, that's going to be such hard work. But then I was like, well, it's going to help me out once she understands. And she picks up pretty quickly. So that's what I'm thinking about doing is grabbing a couple of those boards that are, just the basic life skills of the day. I get up, this is what I do in this order, and being able to get the stars for rewards so that I can lift some of the burden, right? Like we're
Right.
just gonna keep doing it to make sure it's done right. But I love that we're having this conversation today. One of the things I did want you to explain for us who may not be aware of the word, what is neurodivergent?
So neurodivergent to me, I don't know the dictionary definition, but someone who does not think in the way that we as humans are expected to think, act, be, do. We see the world a little bit differently. We are often the ones that don't pay it. That the people say we're not paying attention, or we talking too fast, or we're too slow at something. Because my daughter, it's not that she talks fast; it takes her a bit longer to process stuff.
Mm,
So if you come up to her and go, "Okay, need you blah 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 blah," immediately her anxiety goes up because she's
mm,
already missed 30 to 40% of what you just asked her.
mm,
And so you have to be a bit more patient with how you explain things to her and just making sure. And then with, her being on the spectrum, making sure that she's understanding the nuances because people on the spectrum are very literal. Like she is, it's funny now, but when she was younger, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how are you not getting this? But she's very literal. She
mm.
sees the world in black and white, but she's learning those nuances now, which is really cool. But a lot of kids on the spectrum specifically, they're very, that's just what you see. It is what it is. Even in explaining things to her, sometimes when I go off on the black mama rant, she has to go, Mom, that's too much. Like, all you have to do with her is say, you didn't do that correctly. I need you to fix it. That's it with her. Like, if you go into the soliloquy, she stops listening. And it's not because she's trying to be rude, it's just because her brain is being overloaded.
Mm.
So for me, it's just a group of people who think differently. I wish I could find the definition, but it's just people that think differently, and it encompasses not just autism. It doesn't just encompass ADHD, but all the different spectrums of people whose brains, the dyslexia, it encompasses all of that. So that's a good way of not saying all of the disabilities. You just say neurodiverse, and it pretty much covers anybody whose brain operates outside of what the norm is considered.
Okay, it makes sense because I heard you say two words. I heard you say neurodivergent. Then I heard you say neurotypical, and I'm like, okay, what are these words? What is she speaking? Because after the podcast, I'm gonna go look it up because I need to know. And I love learning, new words, new things. So I'm gonna go look it up after. But I wanted you just to explain it to everybody, so in case they didn't know what you were speaking of, so that they
Right.
could follow. So now I have a question because you are a mom, you are a business owner, and you also have special needs children. And one of the things that I like moms on the podcast to understand and about unapologetically mommyhood is that everybody's journey is different, and that there's also somebody that's on the same journey as you, that you don't have to feel alone. You can say, okay, like, I had this happen, I didn't know what to do, or I had this happen and I feel like I'm alone, because most of the time you're not alone. You just haven't found your community, your people,
Right.
someone to relate to, right? So one
Right.
of the things that I would like you to talk to the listeners about is, what does a day in your life look like, being a mom, a business owner, and also having special needs children? What does that day look like?
So I'm going to give you right now, my days look pretty damn peachy because of where I have everybody.
Okay.
And because of the age that they're at. These are the days that I cried myself to sleep. That I'm like, will I ever have this space? So I don't know. I mean, I could tell you my day now starts off. I get up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. I work out. After I work out, I, wash my face, brush my teeth, go into my prayer meditation room. And for about an hour to an hour and a half, I'm journaling, I'm doing my prayers, I'm doing my gratitude, and I'm really setting myself up for the day.
Mm,
My kids get themselves up on their own. My daughter still needs my support. So I still need to get up early so
yeah.
that I can make sure she's following what she needs to do without being too overwhelmed.
Mm,
Like, although they do things on their own, there's still that ghost support that I call when you have kids, and especially kids that have special needs. Although she's 20, there are things and ways that she needs to be supported. So I support her, and basically it's all verbal, and just helping her to stay centered. And then everybody goes off and does their thing. My son is homeschooled, so we have those pieces. Um, and then there's dinner and everything. But my day is really, for most intents and purposes, is pretty dope for most intents and purposes. But before we got here, before I got to spend an hour in my prayer closet, which again I never thought would happen, I was doing a 15-minute morning. So a 15-minute morning is 5 minutes of movement. I would do some sort of like little yoga moves or something like that for 5 minutes. I would sit and pray, meditate for 5 minutes to really just get myself centered and everything like that. And then I would 5 minutes of journaling, you know, and then I would leave because that's all I had time for. And so I give both of these because there are going to be seasons in your life where you're going to be able to do the hour, and there are going to be seasons where all you can do is the 15. Like even now, if something happens to where my husband has a shift that's at night where he's on call, well, now he's not taking my daughter to school. Now he's not doing some of the things that he normally does in the morning. So the hour I may have wanted to spend now gets nudged down. Sometimes I still have my 15s, but they're not as frequent because of the life that we've created. But I had those 15-minute mornings, and then I had to immediately run down and make sure that my oldest son, autism is hilarious, but make sure at that one particular time that he wasn't sick and sitting naked in the bay window. I had to make sure anybody, like autistic kids sometimes do not like wearing clothes, like the sensory feel of clothes, and like whenever he could take them off, he was taking all of them off, but he liked to sit in the window. Long story. Anywho, but getting up and making sure that he was okay, because he also has seizures. So making sure that he was okay, that he wasn't on the floor, that he hadn't hurt himself, especially if I hadn't had to wake up the night before to help him out with anything or anything like that. So I had to get up and make sure that he was set, and then getting the other two kids ready for school, and then coming back home and resetting the house for that afternoon, on top of building a landing page and doing things like that. I had to be very regimented. And some, like, people would make fun of me, like, oh my God, your schedule is so strict. Honey, yes, it has to be, because if I really want to get things done and make those moves, I understand that I have about an hour to 2 hours while my kids are at school in order for me to do work on anything in my business. It's not that that's all I have that day. That's all I have for my business in that day, because in this season of my life, my family really does come first. And I want moms to hear that too. Every season of your life is going to be different. There are going to be some seasons where you can devote more to your business. There are going to be some seasons where you really need to get your family together and you really need to make sure everything is okay. Because no matter how hard you want to go hard in your business, if your family's not together, then you're going to always feel like you're putting out fires because you're trying to keep up with a persona. Let it go. Build a business that feels good for you. You don't have to be on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok. You ain't got to do all that. You don't even, depend on your audience, you may not even have to be on social at all. Figure out what works for you and do that.
So I heard you explain a little bit of the difference between now and then. I mean, now and before. So with your days now, because you said it's pretty smooth sailing, it sounded smooth sailing. I was like, she get up, she get to work out, she get to do this, she get an hour and a half journaling, meditation. I'm like, wait, where you getting all that time from? So tell me about the transition of that from going from the more chaotic times to now being able to have less chaos, more of yourself, and still have your household function. Hey, so I'm interrupting this video to tell you about this really amazing community where moms are supporting moms in a really genuine way to be a support system in not only your life, but in both your home and in your business. What's better than being with a group of like-minded women who really care about you and your success? We're talking personal development, business development, co-working, networking, and just support where we meet you where you are. We get and we got you. Check out the Thrive After 9 tribe at www.thriveafter9.com. Now, back to the episode. And tell me about the transition.
So everything is energy, right? When you find yourself, and this might sound woo woo and wonky, but honestly, when you find yourself giving more time to yourself, magically, you seem to see 5 more minutes. Or the kids happen to sleep in because now you're in a calmer space. If you're even taking 15 minutes to get your mental, physical, and spiritual life together, you're going to show up differently as a mom. That energy is going to transfer. So now the chaos that you may have been feeling in the morning of getting everybody together and doing all these things and going to bed, like that energy begins to transfer because now you're building something different. It felt like it was almost overnight, but I know it was. I know it wasn't overnight. I
I was
know
about
it
to
wasn't.
say, I don't know right there.
No, it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
But because of the energy that I was giving to certain things and the systems that I began putting into place and the communication I began to have with my husband. Notice I said he's on call. That does not absolve him from doing anything else. I found out, okay, where do you feel comfortable inserting yourself? Like on the weekends, I don't cook. He takes everybody out to eat. Go do you, boo boo. Like he's using his play money to take everybody out to eat because he doesn't want to cook. Even though I married a chef, he don't want to cook.
Oh, wow.
um, so I don't go, oh my God, I want everybody to eat super healthy. So you can't take the kids out to McDonald's or to Wendy's or Burger King because I want everybody to have these meals, which tends to happen, especially like in the special needs community when we get around diets and stuff like that. Now I'm like, you want to go take everybody to KFC? Have at it, big boy. I that's y'all. You go ahead, take everybody out. They love the weekends because dad is buying food. And I just let that happen. However else he shows up, we have that conversation. We have a weekly conversation because his schedule changes weekly. What do you have space for this week? Who can you take to where this week? Where can you be this week? And that forces me to communicate with my husband about stuff that's not, non-essential, but about essential things, and about having conversations about what's working for me, what's not working for me. Here's the other thing. If something is not working for me and I need for him to do it, and it's not working for him either, I don't pick it up and say, now I have to do it. That
Mm,
releases the stress. The kid just don't go. I've released mom guilt around that because I am not going to super exhaust myself. I'm not, like, not anymore. And so you find yourself spending less energy, because time is energy. So you find yourself using your energy in different ways, which affords you more space. You find yourself thinking of solutions to problems versus sitting in the problem, because now your brain is like, girl, hey, I'm back. What you want to think about today? And so you begin to create this space and this rhythm. So it ends up building momentum for you. And you begin to see more time, more space, more.
mm. Yeah, I love it. And when you were saying, asking your husband what they feel, comfortable with taking on, right? Because I feel like I see this all over the internet all the time where it's like, well, my husband says he works, so I have to do everything at home. Plus,
No, you don't.
I'm working too, whether they're working in their business, whether they're working, now they're working and they're doing everything in the house. So, one of the things that I like and have been relinquishing some of the reins, right? Like, at first it was harder, and then it got a little bit easier as I seen I was able to get some things done that I couldn't get done before. And one of those things is cooking, right? Because I'm like, well, we got to eat every night, right? So he takes a weekend day and maybe one weekday. And at first I was nervous about it because he don't cook. So at first I was nervous, but he's been doing pretty good, especially if he grabs a recipe and stuff and he's like, I think I can do it, so he does it. And he hasn't had,
Well,
a miss yet, and it's been okay. So I feel a little better now. At first I was like, I don't know if we gonna survive this meal, you know what I mean? But it was good. And then so it has been ongoing, and it does help out. So like every small thing helps out that you don't have to do, because I know, like me,
yeah.
I'm up late. So I have one child that sleeps late, one that gets up early. So he gets up early, so he gets her together, right? Because she gets up early and he gets up early. But I'm up late, like super late at night, so I sleep a little later. And my small one, he sleeps late too because he's either up late or he just sleeps long times. Like he just don't be wanting to get up. So it works out. It works out. And I was able to say, okay, like it's not exactly how I would do things with her in the morning when I get her up, but it works. It is what it is. Because at first I
It
was
is
always
what it
like,
is.
well, you didn't do this and this didn't happen and this didn't happen. And then eventually I'm just like, you know what? Whatever. It happened. It's good. They okay. Whatever. Because I didn't want to, because that can cause you to stress out by focusing on
Yep.
all the little small things that don't really actually matter. Like they might matter at that time in that moment to you because you're in your head, but they don't
Yep.
actually really matter. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things that us as moms, we have to really learn to do. Just let
Yep.
go of some of the reins, and I promise your mental health will thank you. It
Oh
will
God.
thank you when you let go.
Exactly.
So I do want to ask you another question as it pertains to what you do. So you talked about the transition, right? We talked about
Right.
where you are now, where you were before. We talked about the transition. Um, let's give the moms right now with special needs children who may be younger or who they have to give more help to, meaning they need
Right.
more help, ways that they can still be able to function um, in their business and in their home without overwhelm and burnout and feeling like they can't do anything else.
So the first thing I would tell you is it's not going to fall apart. That's what I'm going to preface it with. Now, the first thing they will do is take some time to get really clear. I mean, abundantly, like crystal clear, like you looking through a really clean pane of glass, and take all your life areas and just break everything down. And this will probably take you a couple of days, but be okay with that. Do the bare minimum and take those few days and just get really clear. Once you get clear, that solves like 98% of your issues, because most of what we as moms do is based on things that need to get done right now. We are in a continual state of reaction, especially if you have special needs kids or kids that have a specific subset of needs. Like my son was having seizures. So at a point, I always felt like I was in the space of reaction, because you're kind of on edge waiting for the next episode. When I stopped waiting for the next episode and say, okay, how do I want this day to go? What is my vision for the day? Which was so important with those 15 minutes, because I was able to set my intention, my vision for the day, get that download. So I stopped packing my days. Like, we honestly, this is special needs moms, moms with neurotypical kids. We tend to put so much in our day that there is not room for Jesus. Remember, when did you grow up in the church?
Yeah.
Remember when you would sit by a boy and they would tell you to, move over, leave some room for Jesus? Some of y'all sitting so close to all, you have so much stuff to do that there is no room to breathe. None. And so when something happens, when you have kids, nothing, you will not have an as planned day. If you do, thank God. I have older kids. There still is not an as planned day. So I plan my day out, but it's a lot of space in there. There's room for flow, because somebody's going to forget something. Somebody's going to forget to tell me something. Somebody's going to need help with me doing something like this. Somebody's going to need help with that. And so these schedules of 9 to 10, I'll do this. 10 to 11, I'll clean my bathroom. 11 to 12. And so then when something happens, you get more stressed out. And then you just like, F this day, nothing ever goes right. Where if you had only had 3 or 4 things on your to-do list versus 20, then when life happens, you'll be like, oh, I only got one more thing to do. Or my intention for some days, my intention for the day was to feel joy. So whether I checked everything off or not, did I feel joy in my day? Was there joy in a process, even if it was difficult? Did I intentionally engage? I started using different things as my markers versus did I check stuff off? Because if I'm not happy and if I'm not feeling joyous about my business or my family, that's heavy when you mad at everybody because you feel so pressured. So getting clear is going to really help you to open up and begin to look at, I really ain't got to get all this stuff done. I really don't have to do all this. And sometimes looking at what belongs to you and what don't belong to you. I realized that laundry did not belong to me. I ain't wear all them clothes. I had special needs kids and everybody doing laundry. I don't wear your clothes. So guess what? I'm not washing clothes. The same thing with dishes. I'm not the only person in this house that eat. Like, we are a team. I'm not the only person eating. How am I the only person that's up to 11 o'clock at night cleaning the kitchen and doing the floors and cleaning up the family room? Like, how, in what parallel universe am I living in? And I had to sit back and go, well, what do I really want the kids to do? What does that look like? Okay. How can I teach it to them? Okay. All right. And so, like most moms, when I see a problem, I'm going to solve it. That night I was up printing pictures on the internet. I was on Amazon ordering the little double sticky things you was talking about with the Velcro so everybody could have their charts and graphs. And we got started. Is it perfect? No, but nothing's perfect. But we keep trying. I want you to start giving yourselves points for, even if you forgot a process or you forgot a boundary, but you're going to go back and do it, give yourself some points for saying, I'm going back to try this again until I get it right. Instead of going, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I'm always dropping the ball. I can never seem to get my schedules together. I can never seem to do this. Don't beat yourself up like that. Give yourself grace.
Yes, I love you said give yourself grace because I'm talking about that all the time. I said do a little happy dance for everything that
Yes,
goes right. Forget the stuff that goes wrong.
you're
Do your
wrong.
happy dance for everything that goes right. And I love that you said leave space for flow, right?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I feel like I be leaving that space for flow, right? Like things change, time to pivot, but I don't. Like I be feeling like it. I be like, yes, I left some space so that this happens. Because I was just talking to my husband about this the other day. I'm like, every time we have to leave out of the house, we are always late because something happens. And I was like, how can we through create a plan throughout the day to where we're going to get out of the house on time no matter what happens. And what you just said, by minimize the things that need to take place, right?
Yep.
Because I feel like that's the time where we always have the issue is when we have to leave out of the house with the kids. Like
But
anytime
think about
anything
that
else,
energy. Think about that energy, Kamisha. So when I talk about energy, the energy, what is the energy like when you're getting ready to leave? Is it flow or is it frustration?
no, it is definitely not flow. It is
So
definitely
because,
not flow.
and remember, time is energy. So if you're in a space of frustration where everything feels like it's got to go, again, this might sound woo woo, but because time is energy, the time for you speeds up. So the amount of time you thought you have, you now no longer have because in your
Mm-hmm.
head you keep going, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So then before you know it, you're supposed to leave at 9. It's now 9:35. You're supposed to like
Yes.
so mind your energy. So when you find yourself in that space of rush, bring it down. And that's counterintuitive because we were taught to hurry up, make it happen, rush, rush, rush.
Yes.
But when you
Yes.
begin to calm that down, things will begin to come into place if you let it. And you'll really begin to be able to see, oh, I didn't need to take that with me. No way. Come on, we good. Let's go.
Yes. And then because the whole like hurriedness, something is always not right, right? Because
Exactly.
it's always in a hurry. So you're missing something, you forget something, you gotta go
Yep.
back. And I'm like, look, it shouldn't be this way because the day didn't start off like that. It seemed like it's only when it's time getting ready to be, time to leave. But the rest of the
Yep.
day didn't go that way. The rest of the day did flow, right? So I love that you said that because it put into my mind like, look, on those days we just have to make less things available that we have to get done. So less things on those days that you got to leave out of the house. Because when you said that, I'm like, I'm about to start applying that all the time because I apply it sometimes. I feel like we're always just going, going, going. That the
Yep.
things that we say we're applying to help make our situation less chaotic, we're applying those things, but then sometimes we just let it fall by the wayside. And now we're back to where we started, right? We're back to, okay, well, now things are not going right because we started doing it, but we weren't consistent. Remember earlier you said
Yeah.
consistency, right? We're not consistent all the time. And we have to make it a habit to be consistent. Like we have to work that into our lifestyle to just be very consistent, especially with children. You really have to be consistent. So I love that you said that earlier. So we have reached the part in the podcast where um, I will ask you a question, but we
Okay.
also do what's called story time, where you're able to help the women relate that are in your situation or in your past situation by telling them a story of that's funny, of something that happened that went wrong and you had to pivot, but just a way for them to be able to relate, right? And know that,
Cool.
hey, this is not just happening to me. So that is what story time is. So if you have one of those stories that you can give out to the other women with special needs children, that would be so wonderful.
Cool. You want me to go?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So I I grew up in a household that taking your time was not celebrated, nor was being a bother celebrated. Um, and what I mean by that is my mom was a working mom. My dad worked. I was often left home by myself. So I had to be self contained and handle all my stuff on my own from like the age of 7 until about 16. And I had to take care of all of my own stuff. So that translates into how my life looks. And I never thought I could lean on or ask for help. And so because I never asked for help and I did all the things on my own and I didn't want anybody to be disappointed, I began to have, like, I was getting sick. Like, I was getting physically sick on top of everything else that I was doing. Yet I still was not asking for help, because help from where I came from was looked at as a form of, you can't handle something on your own. You know, wildly enough, growing up in the era that we did, and I don't know about you, but in the era that I definitely did, your mom was working. You know, you really had to be a self-contained kid, and you really had to manage all of your own things as a kid. And so that led to a lot of different things, me being physically sick, the anxiety, everything like that. I had to learn I had to get help on managing those things. I had to get help on managing everything that is my life. And I still receive help, therapy, coaching, spiritual advice, all that good stuff. I tell you guys that to say this: getting help is not a horrible thing. It doesn't mean that you failed as a mom, because I really took getting help as a sign that, and bless my mom's heart, it's just the era that she's from. She was like, well, why do you need help with your kids? And I'm thinking, lady, I'm literally finna like pack up and leave all of them with my husband. Like, this is a serious thought. Like, I would make it to Saturday. And by Sunday morning, I would be in the shower and everybody would be asleep. And I would go, if I left right now and just took my wallet and just left, like, where would I go? Would I take a plane? Like I was literally thinking about just like bouncing. Like, where would I go? Well, like, what would this look like? Huh? And then the guilt of, no, you can't leave, because who's going to take care of them? Who's going to take care of everybody? Who's going to take care of everything? And so there was this push and pull. Mom's like, why do you need help? You're the mom. You should be able to do all this. I believe in being a Black woman specifically, the weight of being all things to all people is a real thing in our lineage and in our community. And when at some point you say you want to get help for something, most of the times you looked at as weak. It's like, why would you need help? Thankfully, that's beginning to shift. Thank God. It seems like that is beginning to shift. But some of us are still dealing with that. And I still get help, because it's like, if you've ever watched Shrek with your kids, and Shrek goes, well, ogres have layers. And Donkey is like an onion. Yeah, onions have layers. Like, your traumas and everything have layers. As soon as you figure out one thing, you'll begin to unpeel and see something else. And being in therapy or having coaching or something like that doesn't mean that you're a bad mom, or even if you have to take medication for something. Like, whatever you need to do to get your mental game, because that's 98% of your game is your mental game. In order for you to get your mental game on lock so you don't lose it, you need to do what you need to do so you can take care of yourself. I wasn't taking care of myself for a very long time. Like, I, honest to godly, was teetering, between, on the edge of, oh my God, everything in her life looks so wonderful. And if you went beneath the surface, it was a hot buttered mess. Nothing was as it seemed. I looked like I was organized, but I was really good at making things look surface good, because that's what I had learned as a kid, is how to make that surface look really, really good. And if you find that you're making the surface look good, but underneath you are drowning and you don't know how you're going to get up, I need you to reach out. Now, whether that's a therapist, and I know therapists are like hard to find, but you have to be willing to do the process. You have to be willing to get some bum ass therapists and then be willing to move. I've had more icky therapists than I've had great therapists. But when you find that one, it's worth all the work. finding the support you need for your kids, whether you're a special needs mom or not. Girl, if you got the money, you better hire you a babysitter or a nanny. You best to hire you one. We have had the same girl for 10 years. And it's like, at first when we got her, my mom was like, oh, so I see you fancy now. You gross point fancy. You got somebody to come help you with your kids. Oh, she helping with their homework. And oh man, like, we didn't have an opportunity to do that in my, I got lots of flack from my family over that. Even us not cleaning the house, doing like stuff like that. I It takes such a big weight off. And even if you cannot afford right now and you're a special needs parent, start tapping into those resources. There are so many resources. I can speak for Michigan. So if you're in Michigan and you have a child that's on the spectrum or has some other form of a disability, get connected to the Michigan Department of Mental Health and get your child in that system so you can possibly, even if you make too much money, and I have that in air quotes because the amount they say is too much is some bull, but even if you make too much money, if your child is on the spectrum, there's waivers to where they can still get respite, where you can still get that space, where you can still get that break. There's opportunities for you to do that. There's opportunities for you to get the rest. You have to be willing to do the work, maybe meet up with some frogs in the process, but not give up. But yeah, that was my life. But what saved me was communicating and asking for help, being really clear about what it was that I needed. Because for so long, what I needed was what you needed. So tell me what you need, and that's what I'm gonna need, and I'm gonna get it done. That's exhausting. So I had to get really clear about who I was because for so long, everything in my life was wrapped around my kids and my husband and making sure that everything with them was good. And that was killing me. That was killing me. Starting my business literally saved my life because I love my kids, but I felt purposeless. Y'all get it. I felt that way. I felt like, why am I even here? Am I just here to like take care of these kids? And again, I love my kids, but if some of y'all, if y'all honest, you feel like me. I really didn't even want to fuck around and have no kids, but I had them and I'm grateful for them. But I had a completely different vision. And sometimes you have to let go of the vision you had and allow God's vision to take precedence and see what you're supposed to learn from it. Like sometimes that's the surrender you need because what's making you mad is you're holding on to what you thought it should have been like versus embracing what it is like now and finding a way to make it work for you.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about um just, you know, I don't want to say creating the space, but asking for help, but being very, very specific and clear. Because I talked about this a few weeks ago about asking for help and in getting help from somebody who's going to give you the help in the way that you need it, not the way they want to give
They
it
want
to
to
you.
give it to you.
You need to get help in the way that you need it. And asking for help doesn't make you weak. Asking for help actually makes you stronger because you were brave enough and strong enough to realize, like, hey, I can't do this on my own and I need some
Right.
assistance so that I can keep moving, right? So that I can keep
Right.
going. So being able to ask for help is so very important, and being able to be specific and not care about them saying, oh, she asking me for help, but she making demands. You know what I mean? Because that's what it feels like to people. Like, you're asking them for help, but you're making a demand. When you're not making a demand, you're just being very clear and concise and saying,
Yep.
this is how I need help. Like, I don't need it the way that you think I need it. I need it the way that I actually need it. So
Right.
that's so super important. I loved it all. Like, I'm just sitting here and I'm soaking it in because we hear these things. Not just you saying it, but we hear it and we see it all the time, but we never actually take the time to really apply it. Like, listen, really take it in and then apply it. Not just seeing it and it's just a passing thought like, oh, I want to do that, but then letting something else take over where it's like, well, somebody's going to say something. Somebody's going to talk about me. Somebody's going to call me weak. Somebody's going to say I'm not a good mom. Those people don't understand motherhood. If they're saying that, they don't understand. They don't
But most
understand
of
that
the,
sometimes we actually really do just need help.
a lot of the moms in those mom spaces that judge, most people that judge are judging you either because you're doing something they wish they had the courage to do,
Mm-hmm.
or there's something about them that feels inadequate. So that's how I learned to stop allowing judgments to affect me. The other thing in taking action is that because the current state of our world is so information inundated, I always tell women, please get the support of a therapist or a coach. Call me, call Kamisha to see, because we all have the best of intentions. But when you're dealing with all of this noise, not only from the world, but being in your family and
Mm-hmm.
all the things that come up, in the beginning, you really need somebody that's going to hold your feet to the fire, show you what's going on for real, and support you in the process. I really believe that anybody taking this journey does not need to do it alone,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how those New Year's resolutions start out, right? Hey, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then it gets to like, what's this, January 23rd. And you like, well, I've been good for 2 weeks. Let me go head on over to the Krispy Kreme or to grab me a Whopper. I'm just going to be one. And then it just trickles down from there. I
Yeah.
know, because that's me every weekend. Um, but versus thinking that, especially when it's something that either you've never stepped into fully or you don't fully understand how it can be done, seek support. Even if you have to create your own support space,
Mm.
seek support so that you can actually make those goals. Because when you try to do it in a bubble, that's more stress. When all you got is what you saying in your own head, your negative Nancy is gonna go, girl, you messed up yesterday. You ain't never gonna get it done. You might as well just give up, because it's used to the safety of what it was that you were or weren't doing. Even if that safety of that item is painful, we go to what's familiar. And when you try to go into something unfamiliar, your belief system is going to put up this holy battle. Like, wait a minute, why are we changing things?
Mm.
Like, I know this hurts, but I'm used to it. What if the other thing hurts worse? What
Yeah.
if it's even harder?
It's called
Like, these are thoughts I
the
had in my
fear of
head.
the fear of the unknown, because you don't
Yes.
know what's going to be on the end of that. So you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to just stay over here because I know what's going to happen. Even if it's
Yeah.
hurting me, even if it's bad, I know what's
Yep.
going to happen. But when you're crossing that boundary into the fear of to the unknown, then that fear creeps up for the fear of the unknown. You're like, okay, I might not want to do this because I don't know what the outcome is. But guess what? You'll never know what the outcome is until you actually do it.
Take
And then
action.
you
Yep.
can judge it after you've tried it, but you can't prejudge it because you don't know. Like, that's
And
like saying, okay, I need this. I don't really know what's going to be on the other thing except what I'm getting, like what I actually need is on the end of that. But
yeah.
I don't really know what it is, but I know that I need it, but I'm not going to do it because I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that just sounded
Yep.
crazy, right? That just sounded real crazy. You were probably like, what is she even saying? Like, what is she
But
saying?
that's a thought that goes through, like, I've had that exact same thought in my head. It's like, well, yeah, but you don't really know. So just like, let's just stay where we at, because that feels comfortable and cozy. and
Yeah.
and start talking to yourself out loud. Because sometimes, like, I'll do that and I'll say it out loud and I go, God, that sounded nuts.
You know
Let me
what? You know what? My husband is always walking in on me talking to myself. And he's like, I'm just making sure you talking to yourself. Because I'm in there and I'm talking out the steps of things and what I'm doing and what I need to do. And I'm just talking it out loud because I feel like when I'm talking it out loud, I can hear it and see if it
Yep.
makes sense. And I'm doing that all day, all the time. And he's just walking into the room like, you just in here talking. It's like, I'm having a full conversation. So what? At least I know that what I'm going to be doing is done right because I'm talking it out. I'm doing it all the time. So I get what you're saying. Sometimes you just need to say stuff out loud to hear how it sounds, because you can hear it. It goes right back
It
into
is.
your ear, right? So,
Yep.
it's auditory. You're like, okay, that don't sound right. But in your mind, it could have sounded amazing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The perception changes when you say it out loud.
Yes,
Because in
it
your
does.
head, you're like, oh, that's dope. And then you go, okay, I'm gonna do that. Oh no, that's not dope at all.
Like, nah, that's not gonna happen. That's not where it's at,
Nope.
right? All right. This has been a really like amazing conversation. And so right now we are to the point where we do what's called a tool and a tip. So I'm gonna give a tool for the moms for today. And then what you're going to do is you're going to give a tip for
Okay.
moms in your space, this moms with special needs children. One, if you could give them one tip today that they can walk away with, what will that tip be? And you're able to think about that for a few seconds while I go ahead and give them my tool for today. So, my tool for today, ladies, is let me bring it 1 second. All right. So, my tool for today, ladies, is I've come across these wonderful headphones, right? And I'm going to show you. And they're called open ear headphones. So, what happens is you put them up over your head and they sit right in front of your ears. It's called bone conduction, where it doesn't actually go into your ears, but you can hear, and nobody around you can actually hear, but you can hear the sound. And the reason that I'm giving you this tool is because a lot of times when we're in the house, right? And we have one earphone in, one earphone out, and you can hear in that earphone, but you don't really get the fullness of the conversation because you're only listening through one ear and then the noise is all in your other ear. With these headphones, you can hear the sound on both ears, right? You can hear it through both ears, but it's open because it's not in your ears. And then what happens is you can still hear what's going on around you. So you can hear the conversation, you can hear if the kids are going crazy, you can hear everything, but you can also hear the full conversation. And this is so important for me because, again, I was constantly listening with one headphone, missing parts of conversations because, even though the kids are here, we still got a business to run. We still got things to do, and we need to be able to hear what's going on. And the other part is because I can't really fit any earbuds. None of them really actually fit in my ear. They were constantly falling out, and I'm already only listening in one ear. So when that falls out, I definitely miss part of the conversation because then I got to put them back in, get it fitted back, and it's always uncomfortable. So I was like, well, let me find some headphones because, of course, it popped up on my timeline when I was talking about headphones. We know they listening. It popped up on my timeline. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And it was one of those Kickstarter pages. And then I couldn't find it, but I remembered that they were called open ear headphones. So I found me a pair, and these have been working so great, really great so far. I really like them. I've been able to hear, I've been able to listen, and they also come with actual earplugs that you can put in when you want to block out the sound the and hear what you're listening to and block out the sound. Something like the headphones that you use if you're a musician, where you have your earplugs in and then you have the headphones as well. It helps you block out the extra sound. Now you're like, well, if I got earplugs in, how can I hear the sound? The sound is through the vibration. So there's a vibration with the headphones because they're not in your ears. They sit like right in front of your ears on your temple, and there's a vibration that carries the sound. So I wanted to give you that tool for today. And the other tool that I'm going to remind you of is the tool I gave you before, and that's your journal and your pen. Don't forget to journal. Keep journaling every day, every night, because it's going to help you get those thoughts out of what you wanted to happen in your day, what didn't happen, what did happen. And I want you to continue to do that. And I'm going to keep reminding you to do that because sometimes we forget and we don't do our journaling, and we have those pent up thoughts and things that happen. So I want you to continue to journal, until it feels good to you. And again, if you're not that person that likes to write, get your audio journal out, hit that record button on your phone. You can transcribe it, you can listen back to it, and it's very helpful. So now we're going to bring Miss Charmaine back in because she's about to give us the uh, tip of the day.
Hey, so the tip is adding space. How do you add
Mm,
space in your day? Take one day this week as you're journaling and thinking about where what can I take off my list so
mm,
that there's actual flow in my list? What doesn't really need to be there? And even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 3 minutes, and adding space in between your task, adding
mm,
room versus going from thing to thing, add space. If you're working on your landing page and your kids come at you and it's something important, before you go back to that landing page, add space so that your brain can catch up from the switching activities and you can go. Adding space, if you don't do anything else, will save your sanity because now you're doing less stuff and you're really kind of bringing in all the things that you thought you had to do because you want space in your day. So definitely my tip is to add space.
add space. You heard that. And adding space helps so much. And she just
Yeah.
explained an easy way to begin to add space by getting rid of something that you don't need to do. Don't hold on to it because you know we try to. Let it go.
Yep.
All right.
Most
So
definitely.
before we get out of here, Charmaine, I want to thank you for coming on and gracing us with all this wonderful information that you can use with your neurodivergent, right? Or
Yep.
neurotypical child, either or. But we're really on here for the special needs moms today. And remember that Charmaine is a life strategist that helps mom entrepreneurs of colors with special needs children so that you can achieve more time, energy, and focus in your personal and your business life. And she has all the cred and credentials to do that. And she's done it for her own self. So you know that you can trust it because she's done it, right? So before we get out of here, Charmaine, can you tell everyone where they can find you online?
So I am on Facebook and Instagram, Charm with Char. They can find me on my website. If they go to workwithcharmaine.me, they'll be able to pick up my Overwhelm Cure case study. It's a video, and I give the top 3 ways that I got out of overwhelm hell. And then, but getting on that will trickle down so you can find me in other spaces. But I'm always on the gram and on the book, always there.
Okay, so you can find her on Instagram and Facebook, as she said, at Charmed with Char. And of course, it'll be down in the comments where you'll be able, down in the description where you'll be able to go ahead and click on it and get directly to her. So, thank you all for listening today. You've been listening to Unapologetically Mommyhood, and you can find us on YouTube at Unapologetically Mommyhood and Instagram. You can follow me at Kamisha RM on all of the platforms. The Instagram is my main, but you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Fanbase, and Clubhouse. I love hanging out and talking with you moms. But you've been tuned in to Unapologetically Mommyhood, where we've talked a little bit of business, a little bit of life, and a little bit of mommyhood. And we've been totally unapologetic. So come back and hear and see more next time in the mommyhood.